So the sun just came out. I guess that's auspicious for the start of our meeting, Jim.
Well, because the sun is out, I will call this meeting to order. Today is March 2nd, 2023, a regular executive board meeting, 1 o'clock, and we're all virtual today, all of us. So could we get roll call?
Of course, we will start with the executive board members first with Jim McCarthy.
And I am here.
Excellent. Geronimo Vasquez, not present. Patrice Horseman,
Present.
Austin Aslan,
Here.
Tony Williams,
Present.
Miranda Sweet is not present at this time. Moving down to Metro Plan staff, Jeff Miles Melbeck,
Here.
David Wessel,
Here.
myself, Mandia Gonzalez, and Sandra Tavel.
Here.
Thank you. We do have some guests with us today. No need to respond. I'll go ahead and just call out your name. Keith Breckus, Ed Stillings, and Brandon Kavanaugh. Did I miss anybody? Excellent. That concludes roll call. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Do we have any public comment today?
None were received.
Okay. First item, or next item actually, is approval of minutes. On February 28th, Miles sent out the minutes to the February 25th special meeting and the e-session for that same date. Does anyone have any comments or suggested changes? I think they're okay.
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes. Both the
Patrice,
special meeting minutes of February 25th and the executive session minutes of February 25th.
Patrice Horseman made a motion and get a second.
Director Williams seconds.
We don't have any discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And any dissent? All right, those passed unanimously. So the next item is the consent agenda, which has the ADOT performance measures and the South Lone Tree Planning Environmental Study. If there's no comments, could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we adopt the consent agenda.
I'll second that. So Ms. Horseman made the motion. Mr. McCarthy seconded. Any further comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. And any nays? All right. Consent agenda passes without dissent. Now we're on to Roman numeral 3, letter A. That's the RTAC representative election. Right now, our RTAC representative is Geronimo Vasquez. And I was hoping that he would take the position. He's been active to be instead of being the alternate, be the actual rep. Has anybody had any conversation with him about his willingness to do this?
If I may.
Please.
Yes, I know that he in past board meetings has indicated his willingness to continue forward with the role. So I'm sorry he's not here. And by the way, I did text him and asked him if he was joining us. He's probably out shoveling somewhere.
Right.
But I certainly think that he would make continue to make a great representative for the Rural Transportation Advisory Council. And I know he was the alternate when a former city council member was the representative. And so I don't know if you need a motion for this, but if you would, I would move to appoint Geronimo Vasquez as our representative to RTAC.
Okay, I'll take that as a motion. Ms. Horseman, can I get a second?
Director Williams seconds that.
Thank you. Well, I'll just make a quick comment. This reminds me of once when I was on a jury and I went to the bathroom and I came back and they said, you're the foreman. So it's better to attend the meetings.
I'm here.
Okay.
I heard all the conversation. I'm
Oh,
in.
so are you willing to be the RTAC rep?
Well, it's one of those situations where they said, please step forward if you want to apply, and everybody stepped back, and I was still standing there. And so, yes, I will accept the nomination for RTAC.
Thank you. I know you've been active as an alternate. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so
You did
all
a
those,
good job as alternate. We need you there as representative.
No problem.
all those in favor of appointing Aranima Vasquez to be our RTAC representative, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, by unanimous decision, the board has appointed Mr. Vasquez to the RTAC position. We really do need an alternate in case Mr. Vasquez can't go. So is there anybody else willing to go under Aranimo's wing and be an alternate and kind of learn the process? I'm not hearing anything.
Well, and you know, we don't have everybody present. I don't know if Miranda Sweet would be willing to do that, Jim, and I have not talked to her. So rather than to volunteer her, we may want to just hold off until one of our follow-up board meetings with MetroPlan. And so we do have a chance to talk to her because she'd make an excellent alternate if she'd be willing to do it.
I think that's a great idea, and I can talk to her about it. But as you suggested, we better just to wait and get her input on this also. All right, so we have appointed a representative, and the alternate will do that in the future, and hopefully maybe at the next meeting. All right, thank you guys. Let's move on to B, Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP amendments. I think Dave Wessel was going to give us a little discussion on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We're looking to amend two projects into the TIP. One is for an illustrative project, the Southwest Infrastructure Raise Grant. I think it's now called the Beulah Boulevard Complete Streets Access to Healthcare. This is a $45 million raise grant application with approximately $4 million in match money being put up by NAH to improve Beulah Boulevard as a multimodal arterial from Woodlands Village to its intersection with John Wesley Powell. That application has been submitted. The TAC approved this amendment in January. And this will just be placing it in what we call the illustrative year. So it's not subject to fiscal constraint. Should the award be made, we'll move it into the appropriate year. And I just want to really commend NAH for their efforts putting the grant together, pulling together a fairly robust team to get that work done. It's a pretty heavy lift. The second is adding busway improvements to the Downtown Connection Center project for fiscal year 23. There's some money that is available from a since expired or completed project that Mountain Line wishes to transfer to the Downtown Connection Center for improvements to adjacent roadways. And so this will allow them to obligate that money for those purposes. So we're looking for approval of these amendments today, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? Oh, it sounds like we don't. So I will move that we amend the fiscal year 23-27 TIP to add the Southwest Infrastructure Raise Grant application to the illustrative year 2027 and add busway improvements to the Downtown Connection Center to fiscal year 2023.
Mhm.
Did I get a second?
So move.
I'm going to take this call. It's from Miranda Sweet. Miranda, we're in the middle of the meeting. Can you make it? Yes. Can you find the link? If you can't find the link, send me an email and I'll try to find it and send it to you. All right, I got to get back to the meeting.
We'll send the link, Mr. Chairman.
Would you do that? Thank you. She didn't have it on her calendar. So we got a chance to try to talk her into being the RTAC alternate. We can come back to that. Anyway, I believe I had a motion and Patrice Horstman, I believe you seconded it.
Second, yep.
Yep. Do we have any further discussion? I apologize for the interruption.
Okay.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any noes? Well, that amendment to the tip passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Mhm.
Okay, well, you're still up to bat here. We're going to talk about Stride Forward. This is item C on the agenda. Take it away, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll share my screen. I have a presentation for you today. Is everybody able to see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I'm very excited to have this before you today as we prepare to release this for public comment. So after the presentation today, we'll be looking for a motion to release this for public comment. We'll put it out for a 30-day comment period. I'm excited because this has been really a new type of RTP for us, and exploring really vastly different alternatives in terms of our upward concept, and really setting the stage, I hope, for some exciting things to come as a result of that effort. And I do want to recognize Miles' leadership in this. He's was excited and enthusiastic about the work, but also very pragmatic and directed. So it's been very, very helpful and a very collaborative effort with staff and with the team of Burgess and Naipaul and Farron Peers. So what I want to do is talk to you briefly about the public involvement that we've been through. This is a continuation of that in terms of the final leg here for public comment, overview the policies, financial plan, and then the scenarios onward and upward that we're all familiar with, and what those investments, performance, and our new accessibility evaluation looks like. And we're all setting this up then for adoption, if everything goes well, by the board on April 6th. So a quick diagram of the path that we've been on, starting with the Flagstaff Regional Plan that's in existence today, and our last or current plan, Blueprint 2040, soon to be former plan, I hope, which led to Propositions 419 and 20. And so here we are moving forward. We can go with a fiscally constrained plan, which is what we're recommending, and that's the onward out to 2045. And should our member agencies want to pursue upward 2030, which is the carbon neutrality plan goals, new plans, new policies, new funding are going to be needed. And that's really what we set out to outline. The format of this plan is also somewhat unique, where we have relatively brief executive summary as these plans go, and with links to a series of appendices and a lot of strong graphics that we hope people can pick up and relate to. So here's those appendices again. The check marks are the ones that we have had the chance to discuss with you before. And as you peruse those, just want to lay out that there are resources coming out of this effort that we'll have going forward. There's a vehicle miles travel calculator, a strong update to the regional model, and we'll be meeting with staff from our member agencies on March 29th to talk about how we can use those tools. We have a literature review, which really gives us a gamut of the work being done in vehicle miles traveled reduction, an electric vehicle readiness plan, and this accessibility methodology that we'll be looking at that we can build off and grow and use for really making sure we're investing equitably. And I think it's going to be a strong tool for just transportation planning and land use planning in general. So we have been out in a robust public involvement. You can see the list of activities there. We also reached out to, I believe, 11 different tribes, received some feedback from a couple of them, just quickly make sure we're respectful of the peaks. And you can see on the left, you know, what we've heard. We know for Onward, which is our existing land use policies and existing transportation investments, those are all voter approved. And we had general support for Upward and the policies and directions through that, though the caveat is the final costs, which were significant, were not presented broadly to the public. So Onward is our status quo scenario. It is fiscally constrained, which is a federal requirement, so we have to stay within what we project to be reasonably available budget. And we did find that it increases our VMT by about 460,000 miles per day. So we don't maintain, or we don't hit that goal of maintaining 2019 levels. Just quickly, you can see this is the land use map for the region, for the city part of the region in the current regional plan. There's calls for density, compact growth, mixed use, and activity centers, but relatively little future urban. So we're not really intensifying greatly. And you can see the large expanses of suburban, which are the yellow, and rural, which are the white. So you can see the little areas of downtown and 4th Street really kind of get overwhelmed from that urban development picture. As far as transportation policies, you know, we call for arterial density and redundancy in the current regional plan. A lot of active transportation. Of course, the active transportation master plan has been amended into the regional plan. And a particular note of equality of modes, though we do have mode priorities set for the different area types, urban, suburban, and rural. And this was all supported by Blueprint 2040 and then the subsequent propositions coming out of that. So our financial plan for Onward is really derived from input we received from the city, the county, and Mountain Line. And just want to point out some things here. We have them broken out into short, mid, and long term. So that's the first 5 years, next 5 years, and then the balance of time out to 2045. And you can see for the city some significant shortfalls in those short and midterm categories, but it's offset somewhat by a large surplus, $126 million out to 2045. But it's important to note that about 90 million of that surplus is from those last 5 years. So that gives us about $35 million within that 2040 horizon to help make up some of those shortfalls. So there's work to be done there. For the county, you see a very significant surplus on the far right. And that's because in our financial planning, we looked at revenues for the entire county because that's how they're distributed, but only looked at the expenses within the Metro Plan area. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then Mountain Line, what comes in, what goes out, and it's very effectively done. And they had a meeting of their advisory committee today, and they're doing very well on a number of performance metrics and seeing an upward trend as they come out of the COVID situation. Mountain Line does a very good job with their finances. But a part of the financial picture is the reality of inflation. Even though we used a cost model that has been very effective in the past, we are seeing an inflated cost within that cost model. Recent bids are showing costs outpacing inflation. And here's a chart from ADOT showing just how fast inflation is escalating, 76% between 2017 and 2022 for construction projects. So when we look at Flagstaff more closely, some of the assumptions that are being made out to 2045 is that Proposition 406, which is the Safe Streets and Roads initiative, and Proposition 419 will be continued out to 2045. Proposition 420 is the Lone Tree Overpass. That project is under design and is expected then to expire at its duly noted time with no need for extension. We do make references to the Downtown Mile infra grant, the 34 million, I believe, that was received. We do that narratively in the plan. So you can see we're talking about real money now, over $1 billion out to 2045. The projects are those that we know from Proposition 419, with the holdover of the Beulah Boulevard extension included here on the right. These were all received from the capital improvement program from the city and the transportation improvement program from Metro Plan. And again, these figures have been inflated appropriately, but there is, as stated earlier, uncertainty on the inflation front. Is it going to continue at this rapid pace? So the best thing to do is just monitor closely revenues and cost estimates. Should we have shortfalls, do what municipalities and counties do, debt finance, maybe push a project or two to outer years, and you can look at amending the scope. If in fact some of the surplus holds, some of the things that are really out there that we're hearing from the public and hearing, from seeing in policy, is advancing the active transportation master plan projects, perhaps making safety investments or intelligent transportation service technology-based solutions, or just simply holding those funds for covering unforeseen expenses. So that's the city perspective. On the county perspective, again, we're talking, $750 million out through 2045 in terms of projections, and assuming that Proposition 403 is extended. It's been really serving the county well and helping them keep up with their maintenance and capital needs. Here are the projects within the MPO boundaries that are within this county's CIP. You can see there's a total of about $15 million. So hence the large surplus that's shown. And this, stating the obvious, gives the county a lot of flexibility in terms of where they spend their dollars within their 18,000 square mile area of responsibility. As far as Mountain Line is concerned, again, about $500 million out to 2045. Their expenditures generally equal their revenues on a near annual basis. They maintain an adequate fund balance to make sure that they are in sound fiscal shape. So things are looking good there. I will point out, again, they are starting to have conversations about elections in 2024, going back out to voters. And at this point in time, we are not assuming those as reasonably available revenues. So transportation service is basically holding at existing levels in the onward part of Stride Forward. I'm going to pause there. That's a lot on the money, and see if there are any questions. Mr. Chair?
I don't have any other board members have questions. Doesn't sound like it, and I'm not seeing anything in chat. So go
Okay.
ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mhm.
So how does the onward scenario, which we're adopting, perform relative to some of the performance targets that we have? Coming out of the carbon neutrality plan, we're looking at maintaining VMT, and we really missed the mark both at a regional and an internal city level by 18 and 22% respectively. When we worked with the sustainability department to kind of translate that VMT into greenhouse gas emissions, we find that we're off by about 39%. We really missed the mark. We had the carbon neutrality plan again set a mark of 54% mode share for walking, biking, and transit. We're only at 13%. So missed that by a lot. Vehicle hours travel, as there's no target established, but we have it here for comparative purposes, 96,000 hours. You can see a map here of level of service. The level of service, this is basically, you know, the same results we see from Blueprint 2040. Things congest a lot, even in spite of the investments from Proposition 419 and 420 as things grow. But that's what our available revenues will support. So you see things congesting on, I believe you can see my cursor. Here's Route 66, and here's the Lone Tree corridor. Here's Milton, West Route 66, Cedar going over the Mesa. So widespread congestion. And you can see it starting to occur down here in the Beulah area as a result of the hospital relocation. A couple components that will be part of the onward plan and Stride Forward is this electric vehicle readiness plan. You can access it via the executive summary. It addresses strategies for different fleet types at the public, business, and household level. It addresses infrastructure needed for electric vehicles, which will help lower the barriers to purchases, as people can see that they have the ability to charge. And so this will either be through direct public investment, changing private development standards to require charging stations, or working with partners like APS, Tesla, Rivian, other electric vehicle manufacturers who are looking to expand chargers and expand the market. The plan identifies locations such as medical campuses, public facilities, neighborhood centers as really prime locations for locating chargers. And then there's a number of resources for implementation with dozens of strategies, looking at future opportunities, regulations that incentivize EVs, but maybe disincentivize fossil fuel vehicles, standards for EV parking, and information campaigns. And the EV readiness plan was part of our strategic work program that we folded into the regional transportation plan effort. Similarly, the mobility app was a recommendation coming out of the advance and is part of our part of our strategic plan, where Mitch Reddy, our former Montoya Fellow intern, is now a full-time employee with Mountain Line, really looked into several apps that will help people plan their trips and purchase their trips in a multimodal fashion. So if you wanted to rent a bike to take to the bus, get on the bus to another location, you could do both in a single app. And the idea is to make multimodal travel much more convenient. As we look at the region at this point in time, transit is about the only alternative mode that we have in any measure. We don't have bike share programs. We don't have scooter share programs. There's a limited car share program available through Enterprise. I think there might be another one on campus. So the need for an app to help coordinate across all these modes and options is limited. Right now, Mountain Line is using a transit app. That is the name of the product, is Transit. And it's working well for their purposes in providing real-time arrival and purchase options. And compared to the other two apps that were considered, it's as effective as any. There wasn't a great separation between those three. So recommending that Mountain Line just stay with Transit for the time being, and we'll maintain that. As we looked at this, the thought of creating a custom app was raised. We're finding like Los Angeles had a custom app, but it was costing them, I think it was like $240,000 a year to maintain and update and upgrade, and they are abandoning that. I don't know if ours would be that expensive, but it'd be much more expensive than any of the options that are out there. So Upward was our illustrative concept, really looking at what will it take to meet the transportation goals of carbon neutrality. And we were able to do that, to get the 2030 VMT levels to maintain at 2019 levels, or about 2.4 million miles per day. And we did that through the strategies you see here: shifting where people live and work, increasing walking and biking, and transit service. And the key is really that last bullet. Money is no object. We spent, hypothetically, as many of those hypothetical dollars as needed in order to reach that VMT goal. So you may recall we evaluated several scenarios for where people live and work, and arrived at this as the most effective as we modeled these. So targeting 50% of growth and moving it into these two areas, downtown and 4th Street. That makes for shorter car trips and easier walking and biking trips and access to transit, all of which lower VMT. Transportation investments are just more buses, more often, more places, more bike lanes and bike facilities, more sidewalks and crossings. And coupled with all of that are travel demand management strategies. You can see those listed here. The assumption is that we do all of these and do them well, and that through marketing, we really accelerate and expand the work from home effect that we see from COVID, and seeing that as about a 3% permanent reduction in VMT. So how does that work? Well, a spoiler, we already said it works well, and you can see how each of these components contribute to this, and we surpass the VMT reduction goal by a margin, but it's still important. You can see that the increased density was relatively low in terms of its impact, and that's because it's relatively small amount of growth projected to 2045, and against the existing population and employment, it really doesn't tip the scales very much. Again, TDM is a significant part of the improvement, but it's going to take a lot of effort. And this is how we get there. So we do outperform the VMT measure. You can see the onward comparison of 1 million on the left. GHG, we come close to hitting that goal. And if you factor in assumptions on electric vehicles, you will get there. We're with that assumption in place on the onward scenario, we still don't reach it. Mode share, we stopped. We're not quite to the goal, but because we reached VMT, we really didn't feel the need to keep pushing for higher mode share. And then you can see the VHT, vehicle hours of travel, for 68,000 hours, so a significant reduction relative to onward. And there's a lot of co-benefits that come with the types of investments foreseen in upward, including safety, health, and quality of life. So here's a similar map to the one earlier in level of service. I'm not going to toggle back and forth for you, but you can see Milton is relatively uncongested as a result of the upward investments. There's reductions in the downtown area, Turquoise, Lockett, Marketplace, Country Club. So we see fairly widespread reductions in congestion as a result of the upward investments, should they be made. But how much of these investments cost? Our estimates were that we would need to double transit service, which would be a cost of $25 million a year. And that would be ongoing, past 2030. Quadrupling bike and pedestrian facilities at a cost of about $53 million per year out to 2030. And then at that point in time, going forward, we'd be looking at making, what we might consider appropriate levels of investment to maintain our access. And then travel demand management. There's a check mark here because, as you recall, we now have a carbon reduction program, formula funds that we'll be using to hire a TDM coordinator / planner, and there will be some balance of funds available to implement programs. There's a number of things that can be done to try to shift the growth in residential and employment development into those target areas. And there's going to be administrative and other costs associated with those that we did not develop. This is an estimate of, to reach those funding levels of what our transportation sales tax would need to do. So you can see it's almost quadrupling of the current level from 0.9 to 3.5. But we do believe that 3.5 could be lowered. The city, this is looking at a regional expanse, and if we looked at just the city level in terms of improvements needed, that would shrink the number. As we evaluate how much we think private development would invest in particularly pedestrian and bicycle improvements, that'll reduce that number. And the region has been fairly successful in securing grants over time, and again, could reduce that number. So it could and should come down. All of that said, the pedestrian and bike facilities, we did not calculate increased maintenance costs associated with those. So that would have to be considered. We did produce principles and policies for upward, and generally they're an amplification and targeting of the existing policies in onward. And those are all likewise, the onward policies are summarized from the existing policy documents. And you can see the three policies that kind of overarch the 50 or so upward policies. One for funding, one for transportation, one for community design. And it's really about focusing transportation and land use around bikes, pedestrians, and transit users. These are all available through an appendix. So I'm going to pause there see if there's any questions about the performance and content of Onward and Upward. Mr. Chair. Excuse me.
Sorry. Does anybody have any questions? I'm not hearing any, so Dave, keep going on. I'm sure there'll be discussion at the end.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the requirements in producing a regional transportation plan is to evaluate its impact on Title VI communities to determine whether these are being, if there's any discriminatory action or disproportionate impact. You can see a couple excerpts from that 1964 law and a subsequent executive order. Those have been expanded to include a broader array of classes. We did something, oops, there we go. A little bit unique and in this round by trying to assess accessibility to goods and services. And when we did kind of a broad look at our Title VI communities, this very busy map illustrates that they're everywhere, depending on which groups you look at. Some areas have multiple communities present relative to their, how they compare to state and countywide populations. So as we did the evaluation, we chose to look at areas that had 3 or more of these classes present at levels 15% or higher than the regional average. And we looked at access to different services in terms of travel time by different modes available by the networks for bicycle, pedestrians, transit, and automobiles. We looked at access to grocery stores, parks and recreation, medical, education, and employment centers, and came up with a composite score for access across all of these services. And then you can see the classes that were considered. And then it was, if compared to the regional average, these areas where there were a concentration of Title VI communities was below the regional average, it was considered to be underserved. The accessibility, there's a very colorful map. There's one of these in the accessibility analysis for each mode for each service, groceries, medical, and so on. And you can see here that for access, it gets worse, if you will, the further you go out of town or from the center of town. But what we found for bicycle access, you can see on the periphery of the urbanized area, which is the dark blue line, and the urbanized areas where there is a certain density of people as defined by the Census Department or Census Bureau. See, bicycle access understandably weakens as one moves to the periphery, although there are a couple places like this one in the heart of the country club area that doesn't enjoy a good bicycle access to services based on the network available. A similar pattern for transit. And again, transit involves wait time as well as walk time to get to the bus stop. And again, there's some gaps in service. Again, that same place in Country Club, but now a couple places up in the east side there, as well as you see areas at the back of University Heights. When we look at vehicular access, a similar pattern, although it's much less green on this image. Automobile access is much more universal, if you will. And then walking access, again, a similar pattern. So what does all this tell us? we see that consistent pattern, and this might be an area to focus in terms of either infrastructure, areas to focus in terms of either infrastructure or programs. Mountain Lion has programs like taxi voucher or van pools. So there may be a variety of ways of approaching this. We may want to do a deeper dive as we look at access to different classes or modes, prioritizing some. There might be, as we learn more about this, there may be a particular class that really is being disadvantaged that we want to pay close attention to. We might want to start wrapping some of this stuff into our project and program prioritization criteria. I think it's an exciting new tool that will provide better insight in terms of how we serve all of our populations. But it does require, I think, further policy development discussion by the board. So as we come to the conclusion of this rather long presentation, and thank you for your patience, we see that Onward is fiscally constrained. This is really what we're adopting at the Heart of Stride Forward, but it doesn't meet several policy goals. Upward, not fiscally constrained, but conversely, it does meet those policy goals. We do see that each of the upward strategies has relatively high potential, but also relatively high uncertainty. And so as we move towards upward, and we meaning, the city and the county and Mountain Lion and others in their policy and fiscal approach, taking that multifaceted approach on land use, transportation investments, programmatic approaches, electric vehicles, and monitoring those frequently is really going to be powerful and important. So in conclusion, we are recommending that Stride Forward be released for public comment. Really thank you for your time today and throughout this process, and be happy to answer any questions. Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Dave. It's pretty obvious a lot of work went into this. So I'll open it up to the board. Any thoughts about the plan, questions or discussion about putting this out for public comment at this point? So I'm not seeing the pictures.
I've got I don't really have a question, more of a comment, David.
Yes.
And that is echoing what Chair McCarthy had said, that a lot of work has gone into this. And I know I've been privy to a number of presentations that you've given on Stride Forward over the last, I don't know how many months, maybe even years at this point. And I just want to compliment you on the hard work and the team at MetroPlan that's helped put this together. Obviously, a lot of thought has been given to it, and I'm interested in finding out what kind of comments come back from the public.
Thank you, Director Williams, as are we. We're very curious to see what we'll hear.
And I'll just note that Miss Miranda Sweet joined, I think about at the same time we started this. She's on the phone. She's not on video, but she's with us and listening. So again, any other comments or?
If I may, yes, Chair.
Yes, please.
And just to ditto everything that Director Williams has said. Very impressive, David. I know this has been very near and dear to your heart, and really the incredible commitment and dedication to this really is showing through in your report. And I think it's great to bring this. I think it's absolutely ready to be released for public comment. And I'm also very interested to hear what the community has to think. But excellent job, really well thought out, and like the graphics, and really like the way that you presented the whole proposal. So thanks, David, for all your hard work on this.
Yeah, thank you, Director Horstman, and really again some credit to Miles in terms of his vision for this highly graphical executive summary, and I hope we've met his expectations as we move forward.
Excellent job, both of you. Thank you. And for your staff, excellent job.
So I'll make a comment. You know, I've seen a lot of presentations on parts of this, but and this is partly my fault, but I haven't looked at the document in its entirety. And I think that the first time that came out was last week? And I've been very busy the last couple of weeks with snow and director appointments and things like that. So I'm just kind of wonder out loud, and then I'll open it up for the board to comment. Should we go public with this now, or should we maybe wait a month? And so that all of us have a chance to go through it in the detail that it deserves. And then the only other comment I'll make is on the upward, some of the potential cost increases like sales tax, they're pretty big. And they're probably going to see a lot of resistance before that ever happens. So just a couple thoughts. Let's open it up to the rest of the board. Board members, any discussion on mine or on the whole thing? Incidentally, I can't see faces. I don't know why on my computer this time, so you'll just have to speak up.
Hello, I'll go ahead and say, first off, thank you, Dave, for your presentation and your hard work with the Strive Forward. And thank you, Miles, for your leadership in helping develop this and as we prepare to move forward. And I agree, I think it's time to put it out there for the community to get some public comment and see, you know, how well received this plan is. I think once people see how comprehensive this plan is and see all the different elements, they'll understand it and it'll be well received. But again, we always need to go for that public comment to get that confirmation. So again, just great job, team. And I look forward to hearing what the public has to say about this plan. Thank you.
So I'll ask a question of Dave. The upward concept, is it pretty clear in the document that to the public, to the reader, that that's what it would take to meet our climate goals, but put it in the perspective of it would take more funding, et cetera. I presume that's discussed in some detail. Dave, please comment.
Yeah, it is, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the question. And we were very sensitive to that, you know, both from the federal perspective that we need to be fiscally constrained. So we wanted to be clear that, you know, onward this is the plan, but also that upward is illustrative. Upward is, you know, food for thought as our member agencies seek to pursue carbon neutrality. Here's some things you can do. Here's what we think it might take in terms of investment levels. And I think we struck a pretty good tone and clarity with that. And I'll add, in talking with sustainability at the city, you know, they were not surprised by the price tag and thought it was actually in pretty close keeping with some of their very high level conceptual estimates. So, you know, the champions there are I think aware of the lift that's needed and the conversations with the public to come.
All right, thank you, Dave. I haven't met with sustainability on this. I did meet yesterday with the 3 representatives from engineering and planning from the city, and they have not read the whole document. They said if we did delay it a month, they definitely would make the time and do that. But maybe it makes sense to go forward now. I'm not hearing much discussion on it. Miranda, I saw your name flash on my screen. Did you have something to say?
I do. Thank you. And again, my apologies that I was late to the meeting. First off, I do want to share the praise of the document. I think you've done a terrific job. And I too have read through a lot of documents since being on council, and this one definitely raises to the top of the list of being easy to understand. I do like the graphics, and I too can't wait for the community to give their input. I am wondering, I just want to make sure that we do this right. And if we have staff members that have not read the document in its entirety, if maybe waiting the month would be appropriate. I'd like to maybe get some comments from all of you, but I definitely want this to be championed the right way and to have success, and maybe having the three staff members have a better look at it might be advantageous. And I don't know, I haven't been on the board long enough to really know the workings of it, but in my mind, it would seem like that might be a good idea. Thank you again.
Mr. Chair, if I can comment, please.
Please do.
So the onward plan, the plan that we are looking to adopt and act on, is again largely existing policy. It's existing projects that staff is all familiar with, existing policy that staff is familiar with. The upward concept is really illustrative, and it is illustrative and provided as information for discussion moving forward. And I offer that just as, it's not an imperative that once this is adopted, staff of any organization or agency is now compelled to respond to that information. It's all there available for them for their consideration going forward. And we will have, I'll just take this opportunity to say on March 29th, we're getting together with key staff to look at the model, the VMT calculator, and a number of performance metrics that, again, for their consideration and use as they consider developing proposals for implementing upward for consideration by your respective organizations. So I don't know if that helps put things in context instead of in terms of what we're actually going to be asking or informing staff of once this is adopted, but I hope that helps.
Hey, Austin, did you have a comment? I thought Austin had a comment. How about Patrice? Do you have a comment?
I was waiting for a turn here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to echo what other folks have said. It's very obvious that a ton of work goes into this, and just really appreciate the attention to detail, Dave. Miles and I were talking when he announced his retirement. I said, "Oh, now you can run for public office," and he laughed at me, saying that's something he would never want to do. And I returned the favor by saying the work that the two of you do and others at Metroplan, and really all of the unsung heroes on our various staffs everywhere. So much work goes into these worlds, and a lot of times the politicians get the credit. But I just want to take a moment to recognize where all the real work horsepower comes from. So thank you guys for that. I don't think we need to wait on this another month. I'm not sure if that's going to be effective. I think we should go ahead and get it out there and allow that public response to become part of our discourse as we continue thinking through some of these thorny issues like the tax percentages. So that's just a general thought, and I appreciate you directing this conversation, Jim. A lot to consider, but I'm not going to micromanage the hard work. that has already gone into this, and I don't think, I certainly don't need another month to come to a decision on it.
Right, it seems like we're getting closer to a consensus on let's move forward and let the public get a chance to look this over. And of course, if any of our board members have comments during that month, obviously we can make comments too. Anyone else that would like to say something on this?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to
Yes.
say a couple of things. One, I wanted to let the board members all go first, and I really appreciate the acknowledgement and recognition of all the work that Dave and the consulting team put into it. I've watched these processes, I think 5 times. Dave's completed 5 of them. But since I've been in this role, yeah, I've been amazed at the depth and the amount of work and hours that Dave has put into this with the consulting team. And I really appreciate how much the board recognizes that. So I would also say, if you are, as a board, willing to go ahead and send this out now, I feel like it's ready. And if you feel ready, I think that would be best for the process to keep it rolling and bring it back to you and hopefully request adoption next month.
Right, do we need a formal motion on this, or can we just say that we have a consensus to go ahead and release it to the public for review?
I would recommend that you have a vote and a motion.
Okay, thank you, Brandon. Well, would someone like to make a motion?
So
We
move.
Oh,
I make a
Roberta,
motion that we put the Strive Forward regional transportation plan out for public comment.
I will
And
second.
That's Tony Williams,
Yes.
seconded.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Any dissent? No dissent, so that's unanimous. All right, I believe we've finished that item on the agenda.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I want to again thank you all for your patience and diligence throughout the entire process. Your support for the process is greatly appreciated, and really look forward to working with you as we take everything that we've learned and move into the future, whether it's on the West Route 66 corridor master plan or the safety implementation. There is a lot that we've learned, and look forward to bringing that forward through this lens. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, David. I think based on all the comments I've heard over the last 10 minutes, the board sincerely appreciates your leadership on this and the work you personally put in, and then coordinating with all the other people. That a lot of people were involved, but you were the leader on it. Well, thank you. Well, our agenda says we're going to item D, but I'm going to take the liberty to say we really didn't finish item Roman numeral 3A. And Miranda, you weren't here at that point, but the board appointed Geronimo Vasquez as the representative for the Rural Transportation Advocacy Council, RTAC. And there was some discussion that maybe it would be good to appoint you, Miranda, to the
Okay.
to be the alternate. But before we did that, we had a consensus that, well, let's not do that until we talk to Miranda about it. So,
until I get
yeah, well, so would you be interested in taking that role?
I would. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity.
So to be an alternate, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other discussion from board members on that?
No other than to thank Miranda for stepping up. Just so you know, that's exactly, Vice Chair Vasquez was in fact the alternate before, and it's great that he's taking on the leadership position on that. And Miranda, I think you just make a fabulous alternate and working together with a good partnership with Supervisor Vasquez. So thanks for doing that.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And thank you again for thinking of me for the position.
Patrice, are you willing to make a motion?
I would be happy to make a motion. So yeah, at this point, move that we appoint Miranda Sweet as the alternate to our tech.
We get a second.
I'll second that.
Was that Geronimo?
Yes.
Okay, great. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you,
And
Miranda.
Do I hear any no's? Well, that passes. Do I hear any thank yous? I'll thank you. Thank you, Miranda.
Thank you,
All right.
everyone.
Now we're down to item 3D, interim executive director appointment. I think everybody here knows kind of the back. I'll briefly go over it. We, as a board, interviewed 2 candidates. We got, I think it was 6 applications, and chose 2 candidates as being fully qualified. And the board recommended that we try to work out a contract with Kate Morley to be our new interim executive director for MetroPlan. And I've sent out a day or so ago, I think it was yesterday, a draft contract with Kate Morley, which has been through a lot of iterations. It's been through legal, it's been through HR. Obviously, Kate's been very involved in this process. Just yesterday, I asked Heather Dahlman at the Mountain Line if she would formally approve, at least in an email, some of the provisions in there that have to do with Mountain Line and the fact that Kate Morley will be on leave of absence from Mountain Line, and that some of her benefits would transfer over even during this interim plan, primarily having to do with vacation and sick leave. And she agreed to those changes. She actually suggested some more changes. So I sent those to her, and she has come back to me at 4 a.m. today. She must get up early, saying that she was in agreement, and she's put that in an email, which I have if anybody wants. We will definitely keep a copy of that just for the record. But this morning I sent out a slightly changed and updated version of the draft contract, and I hope you've all had a chance to take a look at it. Now, if anyone has any questions, I have a copy here, and again, I emailed it to you this morning around 8 or 9 o'clock. So if we want to move forward with that, I think we could do that. If there's delicate issues that we need to discuss in executive session, we could go into e-session, but we probably don't need to do that. So does anyone have any concerns or questions about the contract?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, yes, that's Miles. Go ahead.
If I could, and I apologize if I'm cutting off any of the board members. I went ahead and put up on the screen in the staff report 3, possible actions. Clearly, the simplest, if the board is ready to do so, is to approve the contract. But I also wanted to go ahead and let you know of the option of the board being able to say, there's maybe still a couple details. We're going to trust the chair and perhaps Councilmember Sweet to work out the final details and then authorize them to sign the contract. And then, of course, I put in the third alternative of just continue the process. Certainly not recommending you do that, but just wanted to give you some of those tools and in terms of moving forward on this. Thank you.
Yeah, and I failed to mention that Miranda Sweet and I were appointed by this board to negotiate with Kate Morley the details of the contract. And Miranda, I'll just thank you out loud for your involvement in that process. I think it was the day or the day after the board met. Miranda and I actually met face to face with Kate Morley and went over the contract in details. There's been a lot of iterations since then, but I believe we have a contract that is very fair to Kate and very fair to this board. And I would thank Branton Kavanaugh for, looking it over and making sure that we didn't put things in there that were, open-ended or whatever. And so enough for me. And Miles, thank you for pointing up our three alternatives there. So I see Ms. Horstman, your camera's on. So did you have some comments?
No, other than, I thought it was a good process. And I appreciate you and Councilmember Sweet taking the time to meet with the candidate and to go over the contract. If this has gone through everybody's review, including legal review, and the candidate is willing and in agreements with this contract, I think we're ready to go ahead and make a motion for the interim director position and approve the contract.
Final comment. There were a couple of things that were a little sticky in there, but Kate was very cooperative in bringing us to a resolution. So, which just gave me more a good feeling that she's going to be a good person to work with. So do you want to make a motion, Ms. Horstman?
I would be honored to make that motion to appoint as the interim executive director for Metro Plan Kate Morley and to approve the draft contract as presented.
I'll
Can I get a-
second.
Miranda Sweet seconded that. So any further discussion? Also mentioned that we did interview Dave Wessel, and we didn't choose him, but it was very clear from every board member that Dave is an important part of the team, and we definitely want him to stay around and continue his great work. So any other discussion before we take a vote? All those in favor, please say aye, and I'll say aye.
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 Okay, are there any no's? All right, thank you. That motion passes unanimously.
And
I
Mr. Chair,
will,
if I may also just, because
Yes.
you started this, but I think some of the rest of us might want to also be heard on this. David, I want to just thank you for your longtime dedication and commitment to Metro Plan. And I know you threw your hat in the ring because of that longtime commitment to Metro Plan. And I know it was very telling for us when you said you really hadn't made a decision if you really wanted to accept that as a full-time permanent, or if you were even going to apply for that full-time permanent, but that you felt a commitment, at least in the interim, to keep Metro Plan on the right track and moving forward. And I'll tell you that was really appreciated. I know by myself and others who also made comments on that, David, and I just want to let you know that and let you know how much you are appreciated. And your work is absolutely instrumental to the success of Metro Plan. So I want to thank you for that. And I know that Kate Morley is going to need your assistance there moving forward. So thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you. It's been an honor and privilege.
any other comments from board members?
I just wanted to ditto that. Thank you, Dave, for all your hard work and for your continued commitment to Metro Plan, and we look forward to working with you moving forward. Thank you.
I also want to say that Miles Melbeck was, well, he started this process by giving his resignation, but he has been very helpful and very flexible. And the contract says Kate will start next Monday, and which I'm sure she will. And Miles said that he will stay over, which we asked him to do, for 1 week for a transition period. And I think I think Kate will really appreciate a week of interfacing with Miles and having him bring her up to speed. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll move on to future agenda item. Miles, did you have anything in under this section E?
Mr. Chairman, I do not. Somewhat is because of the decision that you just made, and I'm in my last day here. But I will talk to Kate about, and the rest of the staff team, and putting together the next agenda. This is also an opportunity for board members to identify agenda items that they would like to see coming up.
You said you're in your last day. I think you're going to stay another week.
Last day as executive director. Next
Okay.
week, you won't have two. It'll just be one.
Okay, all right. Okay, thanks for the clarification. So does anyone have a future agenda item request? All right, for closing business, we'll just go around informally, items to and from the board. And I think I'll start this time. I just want to thank Miles for what a great working relationship we've had. I guess I'll use this word, trust. I've trusted you to do the right thing and to get the job done, and you did. And, you know, I worked with you here, I worked with you at Mountain Line, and even before I was on council, you invited me in just to get to know what was going on. And I think back those many years ago, and I really appreciate it. So if you ever need a letter of recommendation, just give me a call.
Thank you.
So I'll go down the list. Geronimo, do you have any closing thoughts for tonight?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Miles for all your hard work in helping develop Metro Plan to where it's at. And I appreciate all your hard work and your leadership through this process. And I think you've set a good foundation, and we should be in good hands moving forward. So I just congratulate you on the next episode of your life. And so thank you for all your hard work and your commitment to transportation in Flagstaff.
Thank you.
Ms. Horstman.
Yes, I ditto what's been said. Thank you, Miles, very much for your 4 years of advocacy, dedication, and commitment to Metro Plan and for regional transportation here in Coconino County, and just for your work. I think we're in a good position to move forward. And I just wish you well in whatever endeavors you undertake. I know that you probably have some great ideas moving forward, and just wishing you all the best, Miles.
Thank you.
Great. Austin Aslan.
Unmuting here. Yeah, so I know this is to from. I don't want to risk starting a back and forth conversation here, but maybe I missed it. Did we discuss the Adobe signature glitches that are happening? I've never received one of those emails. I use Adobe Signature all the time as chair of the Coconino Plateau Water Advisory Council. So I know it's not a Adobe issue from my end. I just think it's very weird that those emails never show up. Very weird technical Twilight Zone thing.
I believe it.
Before,
I just say, I think it's a sequential issue in terms of the sequencing of signatures. We'll address that shortly after.
Okay, so we're not going to spend any time agendizing that or discussing it here. That's fine. But looking forward with great interest in making sure that gets resolved, because it's an extremely convenient way to do signature collecting online. And then I just wanted to weigh into Miles. I wish you all the best with your new adventures. I think your next phase in your life is well earned and well deserved. And you know, I have very rarely worked with someone who I've thought of in the top echelon of professionalism and accountability. And Jim used the word trust. It was just really, really valuable knowing you were out there in charge of things and advocating for Metro Plan. And we fought hard with your most recent contract to keep you around. And I guess it was time for you to fly out of the nest either way. But we're gonna miss that added value, those intangibles. The sum is greater than its parts when it comes to Miles Beck. And if I remember correctly, you were city manager of Flagstaff at least one point, as well as your time with Mountain Line and your dedicated service in the trenches and the roles that you take on will not be forgotten. And while mostly unsung, your legacy and your impact and the echo of your hard work and dedication will reverberate for a long time through this community. So sleep easy at night knowing that you had a great impact. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Tony Williams.
Wow, it's really hard to follow Austin in his comments there as well as others. But Miles, I just want to echo many of the things that your colleagues here at the board have shared this afternoon. And the one thing I do want to point out is I really appreciated the extra approach you took for onboarding me onto the Metro Plan when I was selected by the Mountain Line Board to serve in this capacity, and the extra effort you made to meet with me, go over what Metro Plan was all about, meet with me in person, even during the days of COVID. I really do appreciate that. And that kind of commitment in service is going to go a long way in your career. And I look forward to hearing how how and where you end up and what you end up doing. So I wish you the very best in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Miranda Sweet, I think you're up next.
All right, thank you. I have a couple of things. First off, a big thank you to Miles. You met with me when I was running for office and took the time to really go over Metro Plan, which is why I was interested in being on this board. And I wanted to thank you for piquing my interest and for all that you've done for our community. And I wish you a lot of success in your future and look forward to hearing about all the wonderful things that you're going to tackle from this point forward. And I also wanted to give a big thank you to Jim. Jim, you worked very hard on the contract for Kate and put in a lot of time. I did not realize how much work was going to go into that. And I'm sure you feel the same. And I just really appreciate you keeping me abreast of what was going on and sending all the emails and doing such a thorough job with that. So thank you for your time and effort with that, Jim.
Well, you're welcome. I'll admit it was a lot of time.
Yeah.
But I think we have a good contract. And like I said before, I think it's fair to everyone concerned. And that's our goal.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank you.
I will point out that we're going to have a meeting on April 6th at 1 o'clock. I think I'll also point out that the posting for the permanent position for our executive director closes on the 17th of this month. So we may want to get together and at a special meeting or something and decide how to go forward with that. But we have a couple weeks to think about it, and we'll work on that and reach out to the board and see if we can make something work and kind of expedite this permanent position. It's not permanent in the true sense of the word, but you know what I mean. Anyway, that's a coming attraction also. So before I adjourn, does anyone have any comments that they would like to make?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would like to say thank you to everybody, staff, team. It's an amazing group to work with. And, Mandy is, Dave's vast experience. Mandy is relatively new. Sandra has just joined us. Kate coming on. It's just a powerhouse team. The board's engagement has been wonderful. And I step out of the position really feeling very, very grateful for how I've been able to live in this community. And I will tell you, my next big endeavor is actually to clear my driveway. So thank you.
Well, at the city, we have this slogan, it's called Team Flagstaff. I think we could appropriately say Team Metro. We get her done. All right, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone. Bye-bye.